Hi, this is a piece about why do we pay so much money to a small number of big leaders and pay so little to the millions of people at the bottom of the heap. When I qualified as a chartered accountant, and one of the jobs I had to do was to go around and visit numerous companies and audit them. And I gradually started to realise over the 3 years of my training that very often the most intelligent people I met were the ones at the bottom. There was a particular company that I used to go into, quite a well-known company, in the construction industry, and on a Monday morning the clerks in the accountancy department would be sitting around discussing James Joyce or whichever book reviews they'd been reading the Sunday before. And then I would go along. I would talk maybe a little bit to some of these people right at the bottom of the greasy pole, and then I would go along and I would talk to more senior people. And you never discussed Shakespeare or James Joyce with the senior people. And if I had had to rate them, the really intelligent people were clearly at the bottom, and the ones that were rather thick and slightly boring and narrow were the ones who were at the top. And it took me years as a journalist to think more about this conundrum and to work out why we got where we were with the intelligent, independent-minded people at the bottom and the others at the top. There's actually, as I'm suggesting, far more talent around than we think. There are various vested interests, though, who don't want us to realise that. Journalists, for example, I have to plead guilty here. We love a great story where you have someone really brilliant at the top. If you regard Shakespeare, let's say, as a journalist, Shakespeare wrote the plays about the tragic hero. It's one amazing person against the rest of the world. The play doesn't really work so well if you have, 43 King Lears in the play. So as human beings, we focus ourselves that way. But another group of vested interests are the recruitment consultants, the headhunters, who would only make their money if they can go around saying, well, there's only a small number of people who are really brilliant and we know how to find them. So if what you need to do if you're selling a commodity, if you're a headhunter, you need to say what I'm selling is actually worth gold. If you're actually saying I'm selling something that's really just bronze, you're not going to get such a good price. What I'm saying now is that we're all actually gold. So I would be, just going through the economics of it, devaluing the price of gold or great talent, because I would be saying that there's an awful lot of it about. But when I talk about this part, what I mean is that we should all be paid a bit better. So the people at the bottom should be paid higher and the people at the top should be paid less. Another angle on this is that when I was young, so when we're talking about in the in the 60s and 70s, there was an idea that talent or genius was something that only a small number of people had. So the great examples would be the wild geniuses of Shakespeare or Beethoven. And in a way, we still have that idea that's what brilliance is. It's just a few people have it, and it's rather mysterious. It comes from inside somewhere. Byron would be another. In fact, I think nowadays we're starting to realise that we've all got a bit of genius probably somewhere, that we have great potential in places. A good example, actually, of someone is David Beckham, who clearly, when you listen to him speak, is not a Shakespeare in the way he used words, but he's clearly got some access. He's got his own part of genius, a kind of physics genius in understanding naturally the physics of how a ball responds when it's kicked in different ways. And he's a good example because we've all, I think, got, or most of us have got, some kind of tremendous talent in that way. But for most of us, it's not recognised. Another development actually has been that look, we're starting to realise that good decision making often happens in groups. It's not just one person making a decision. If you go and speak to the group psychologists, they'll tell you about this. There are tests that are done when psychologists are trying to help people work together as a group, and they give them this test, which is you're on a desert island, how are you going to survive? Place these items in order of importance if you had to take them off your ship, and they would be a compass, a box of matches, a blanket, these sorts of things. And the teams continually produce the best answers that work together and have a good way of consulting each other. You rarely get the best answers when you just have one person dominating the team. Also, another thing I'd say about great leaders is that it's quite difficult to prove that a great leader is a great leader. Someone with experience who has done very well in the past, that's proof. But actually to look inside someone's head and say this quality makes you a great leader is quite difficult. That's quite difficult to find. I've been working with law firms recently, and they're increasingly talking about their experience rather than proving that the quality of the legal advice they are giving is the best available. Because if I'm a great lawyer working in my particular specialist area and you are my client, it's quite hard for you to understand if I explain to you my little area, my little patch, that actually I'm right and there's sort of 99 other rivals of mine out there are wrong. It would take you a long time for me to explain all the details in sufficient detail for you to understand that I was right and they were wrong, that I was a genius and they weren't. Another thing I'd like to add is that I think that lots of people want to be geniuses or want to be the big cult leader for totally the wrong reasons. There's a group of people defined as narcissists. This is a definition that really comes from the World Health Authority. These narcissists want to be adored by people, and you'll find a higher preponderance of narcissists in certain professions like running businesses and in the acting profession, because they can be adored in these ways, and they make bad leaders, in fact, although they might seem to be quite charismatic, because they will make the business serve them rather than serving the business. This word charisma that I've just mentioned, it's a dodgy word in a way to me. Headhunters will sell candidates on the basis that they've got charisma, but just think about charisma on the one hand and efficiency on the other. Which would you rather have? A leader who is charismatic, and let me just give you a couple of examples of charismatic leaders. I'm going to be a bit provocative here. Hitler, Mussolini, for instance, Oswald Mosley, and so those charismatic leaders can take people wherever they want with them, even into madness. And as mobs, we get mad and we follow charismatic leaders. We make bad decisions with them. Efficiency, on the other hand, if someone is efficient, they are by definition well organised. They use their resources well. They look long term. They don't tend to favour people. They don't divide people. They draw on the intelligence of the group. They do all these excellent things. But how often do you hear in business profiles, so and so was efficient? No, you don't hear that very often. You hear much more, so and so was a great charismatic leader. Or in obituaries, you hear people talking about someone's dynamism or charisma. Final thing, just on that. I mean, examples of other charismatic people. Satan in Paradise Lost. Evil people often are quite charismatic. There's something funny in our psyche that makes us like these slightly rotten, dodgy people because we see them as strong, and we like to follow strong people. Finally, I'd just like to say, shouldn't we be asking ourselves a few questions about this at the moment? If you just look at our experience of the banks in the last 3 or 4 years, we couldn't really say that our experience of those banks proved to us that we had chosen the best leaders. A few thoughts there from my desk.